Hello, my name is Debbie Cherney, and I'm a TCI Faculty Fellow, and Maureen happens to be I'm very proud of her as my student, and she's a TCI Fellow, and I'm going to report on some of her actual work. Okay. As she said, she's looking for potential changes to goat feeding. Goats are not very fat where she is, and while we may not get them fat, we'd like to see them fit more into the system there and become a bigger part. So the livestock sector is really constrained in these areas, and the feed shortages are limited due to fodder conservation, and I think that you can notice this quite readily right here, that these goats are feeding, and soil is not a very applicable thing for goats, and so Maureen's in there trying to figure out if we can increase some availability and how it's used. Okay. The other concern is the deterioration of these common lands, and that may be even more important than what Maureen is doing with the goats. Okay. So doing field work, unlike maybe for the economist, is expected of people in our field, which is forages. Maureen took that to heart and actually went out to the field and followed goats around for days and picked up what they ate and what they dropped, and so that was her project. Don't tell anybody that her project was analyzing goat feces, please. All right, so what are the goat physiological health and other differences that we can pick up between these that are grazed and maybe some of these semi-intensive systems, and what are the barriers? And another thing that she hasn't had a chance to work on yet, and may do this much later, is that there are models out there now that some have been developed at Cornell, like the Cornell Small Ruminant Nutrition System, to be able to evaluate these systems once she gets back with the data, which nobody has data like this. And by the way, Maureen does plan on graduating this year as well, in 2017. Okay. All right, so what's happened? She talked to a lot of people, and she had a lot of groups. And these people are very interested, they're very intelligent about what's going on, and they had questions, and they're looking over the neighbors and seeing what have they got that I don't have. And these goats that she followed, 64 goats for one full day, and recorded what they ate at 15-minute intervals. And goats eat for like 10 to 12 hours a day. Okay, so a lot of time. She took roughly 30 forage samples. She took household surveys for all the enrolled participants. She spoke with focus groups a number of times, and she took milk samples several times from the lactating goats to look at composition and how they were affected during the various times of the year, and to see if we could improve that. So the farmers know that the land, the pasture lands have been degrading. They estimate that maybe half of their pasture lands value has decreased in the last 10 to 15 years. And they realize that improving their number of livestock is the best way of improving their livelihoods. So this is not a good thing. And their solution is, well, if we run out of grazing lands, we'll move into the forests, which are state-owned and government-owned. This is not what we want to do either. But they understand that there may be a limit to this And they are more than willing to look at semi-stall feeding systems. And this is particularly in the winter when it's raining and the goats lie there and they won't go out in the rain even to eat. And also, so the farmers do realize there's some efforts that they could make to mitigate some of these things. They just don't have the incentive at this point. Okay. So what are some of the policy implications of this? Because Maureen went over there with not only the idea that we would be looking at field stuff and goat stuffs, but looking at what might be the policy implications. How can we take this from a one and out and help a few people in these tribal areas to making it where we can go back and talk to the states and help them with some policies that can help these people and help mitigate some of the land degradation that we see going on there. Improvements to forest management, okay, is things that she's looking at regarding the quality of the available forage and common property resources. Are those resources being used to the point where they're disappearing and lesser valued species moving in? More focus on alternative feedstock awareness, which was part of her study where she gave these people this. And to make it kind of even, she gave the other half that didn't get the feedstocks. She compensated them at the end, and they were kind of, one farmer got extremely upset that he didn't get chosen to be one of the feedstock people. So they saw this very quickly. We do see that there is a potential for some of the aid groups to include fodder cultivation in some of the things that they're thinking about. And should we push for a more intensive production system or go in and look at these grazing systems with more managed grazing where the farmers, like I said, are willing to work on it and they, I think, understand. Okay. So that's what she's doing. There's still an awful lot of data, bucket loads as we speak, lots of paper. And these goats, as I said, not only are used occasionally as a food source, but more as a market animal to get other feedstocks. And from this impact, they're very important. And this is why you see the density increasing. And part of what Maureen's research hopes to look at is, can we improve the health of these goats so that they make it through times of feed scarcity and times when they can't go out and graze? And can we increase the fertility of these goats through nutrition, okay, without degrading the system? So again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for having us involved.